Hello. Hello, Ottawa First. What a pleasure to be with you, even in this limited video format. Hello. Hello, Ottawa First. What a pleasure to be with you, even in this limited video format. I hope to come and visit the congregation someday. Hello. Hello, Ottawa First. What a pleasure to be with you, even in this limited video format. I hope to come and visit the a congregation someday. I was thinking about generosity, and I've been thinking about this for a while as we come out of the COVID, and thinking about what it means to be generous, and wondering if my own generosity chops have been affected by this time out, this isolation. I want to begin by expressing gratitude for the generosity of the people who put together this service, and also of my husband, who has worked very tirelessly. Hello. Hello, Ottawa First. What a pleasure to be with you, even in this limited video format. I hope to come and visit the congregation someday. I was thinking about generosity, and been thinking about this for a while as we come out of the COVID, and thinking about what it means to be generous, and wondering if my own generosity chops have been affected by this time out, this isolation. I want to begin by expressing gratitude for the generosity of the people.
Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled, What is Given from the Heart? Written by Patricia C. McKissack, illustrated by April Harrison. I hope that you enjoyed this phenomenal story. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled, What is Given from the Heart? Written by Patricia C. McKissack, illustrated.
Yeah, saw it, so.
I assume they're good back there?
Yeah. Good. I got the thumbs up. Thumbs up. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharmila, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this first Sunday in August. I'd like to welcome everyone this morning, whether you are watching this service from your home or if you've joined us here in Worship Hall. I recognize that it is quite hot today. If you need a bit of a break, we have turned on the air conditioning in the lounge, so please feel free to pop into the lounge, cool off, and join us again in the sanctuary when you are ready. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this time. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Following our service at 11:30 a.m., please join us as well for a special version of our traditional hospitality hour. You can find the Zoom link on our website at firstunitarianottawa.ca or in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU. I would now like to welcome our special guest today, who is joining us virtually, Reverend Patricia Trudeau, who helped design and will be giving the sermon during this morning's worship service. Reverend Pat has a Master's of Social Work, a Master's of Education, and a Master's of Divinity, and is a Unitarian Universalist minister who serves at the Unitarian Fellowship of Northwest Toronto. Reverend Pat enjoyed previous careers in social work, counseling, and children's religious education before hearing the call to ministry. She and her family were active in Neighborhood UU congregation in Toronto from 2007 until 2018. Reverend Pat has skills and interests in pastoral care and social justice, particularly focused on her work in racial justice and building skills as a white ally. And her husband, Dr. Wilburn Hayden, is also present during the service, but not presenting. I'd now like to call upon Brent Nicole to give us today's board announcements. Brent?
Thank you, Sharmila. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you all. In the EUU, this week's EUU that Sharmila was referring to, you'll find a link to an announcement about the deepening of FirstU's relationship with Ontario Aboriginal Housing Services, OAHS. It's an interesting read. It was a decision back in June with the board. It's going to be followed later this month with a site visit to an OAHS development in Peterborough, and we're hoping to learn from it how OAHS can help to develop an affordable housing project here on campus. Also, on our website, please check out the new UU Pride page for our Pride Week activities. Notice that we have a Pride service planned on Sunday, August 21st, and the following week, Sunday, August 28th, we will be marching in the Ottawa Pride Parade downtown after Sunday service. All 2S LGBTQ folks and their allies, so that's all of us, are encouraged to attend the parade, and carpooling is possible. You can contact diversity at firstunitarianottawa.ca for any of the Pride Week activities. Finally, FirstU is considering hosting the Canadian Unitarian Council's National Conference in May 2023. One thing that makes the decision easier is if there are a few individuals willing to take key leadership roles, such as coordinating the program, the hospitality, or the youth conference, which will run concurrently. If you think you could be a lead coordinator, please contact me by email at president@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And you can contact me for any further details about any of these announcements at that email address. Thank you. Sharmila?
Thank you so much, Brent. During the continuing responses to COVID, we encourage you to sign up and receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, check our Facebook page, and our web page for notices and updates. Our calendar is as full as ever, albeit much of it online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community. Our opening words. We are loved into courage. We are loved into community. We are loved into generosity. We are loved into being. Come, let us open our hearts and grow the size of our souls. Come, let us worship together. Now, I was a little bit enthusiastic this morning, and I've already lit our chalice, but I do have some words to share with you from Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. This morning we have a story for all ages, What is Given from the Heart, Sankofa, and it is read aloud. It should be appearing on the screen.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled, What is Given from the Heart, written by Patricia C. McKissack, illustrated by April Harrison. I hope that you enjoyed this phenomenal story. It was a rough few months for Mama and me. We were already poor, but we got poorer last April when Daddy went to sleep on the front porch and never woke up. Mama cried and cried because Daddy didn't have a suit to be buried in. Come June, we lost the farm and moved to a rundown shotgun house in the Bottoms. On Friday the 13th, it rained frogs. Everything flooded, and Smitty, my dog, disappeared. Misery loves company, Mama said, shaking her head as she swept water out the back door. I hugged her up close, the way I always did when she was sad or I was scared. Long as we have our health and strength, we are blessed, James Otis, Mama said, trying to sound brave, but things didn't get any better. We got an early snowfall in November, and Christmas was skimpy, but we made it through to the new year. For I realized February was upon us, with Valentine's Day just 2 weeks away. One Sunday, Reverend Dennis made an announcement during services. Just as we always do, we'll be delivering love boxes to needy folk in our community, he said. Irene Temple and her little girl have lost everything in a fire. We must add them to our list. Next week, bring whatever you think might be useful to them. Remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. James Otis, we need to help out, Mama said on the cold walk home. I came back with, how we gonna do that, Mama? We ain't got nothing ourselves. Mama kept right on talking. Sister Bunch told me the daughter's name is Sarah. She's 7, 2 years younger than you. You can find a little bit of something for her, don't you think? I wasn't convinced. What do I have that a little girl would want? Now, said Mama, remember what Reverend Dennis said. What is given from the heart reaches the heart. That night, I lay warm and toasty under one of Mama's quilts. Still, it made me tremble to think about fire taking away what little we did have. What can I give Sarah to make up for all she's lost? I wondered. I considered the blue ribbon I'd won in the school spelling bee. Nah, the award was important to me, but it wouldn't mean nothing to her. I looked over at my beautiful sparkling rock, the one I found down by the creek. But how would that help Sarah? You can't eat a rock. Unable to come up with anything good, I pulled the covers over my head and drifted off to sleep. Come morning, I found Mama in the kitchen, busy sewing. I know if we had a fire, I would miss my aprons, Mama explained. So I've decided to make Mrs. Temple one. But Mama, you're using the white tablecloth, the only thing you have. James Otis, I'm stitching with a loving heart. My hope is that this apron will give as much joy to Mrs. Temple as the tablecloth has given me. Mama's smile was a welcome sight. That made me study harder on what I could contribute. Maybe Sarah would like something to play with, like my whistle from Dexter Benson's birthday party. But my spit was all over it. What about my crayons? I drew so many pictures with them, even though the black, pink, and dark blue were missing. No way. I couldn't give her used crayons. And I couldn't give her my pencil that was just a nub and not much eraser left either. As time flew forward, Valentine's Day, I fretted more and more. I considered giving Sarah a puzzle. It didn't bother me that 2 pieces were missing, but it might bother her. That wouldn't do. Not even with a bow on it. And neither would my capeless Superman Halloween costume. Then I remembered my book, Things That Roll. Mama'd paid 10 cents for it at the resale shop. I read it every night until I memorized each word, and then I drew pictures of all the stuff that rolled. Sarah might enjoy my book, I thought, but maybe she didn't like trucks and marbles and such. Still, it got me to thinking. I gathered my crayons, my pencil, and some paper and got busy. On the Sunday before Valentine's Day, we were off to church. Along the way, Mama told me, as usual, the trustees will deliver the love boxes to the homes of the needy. But Reverend Dennis has invited the Temples to receive theirs at Olive Chapel so that they can meet the congregation. The church was full. Mama beamed as she carefully placed the apron in the box. When we presented the Temples with their love box filled with all kinds, clothing, food, tools, and toys, Mrs. Temple was overcome with emotion. The congregation shouted, "Amen!" Even so, Sarah seemed sad and afraid. She clung to her mama's arm and hid her face. I walked over to where they were standing. "Hi, Sarah," I said, sounding cheery-like. "My name is James Otis, and I'm pleased to meet you." "Same to you," she answered, looking at her feet. "Here," I said, handing her my gift. I wrote it, drew the pictures, and put it together by myself, just for you. Sarah managed to smile as she stared at the book I'd made. Then, real slow-like, she read the cover. "From My Heart to Your Heart" by James Otis Petway. "It's about a little girl named Sarah and—" "Don't tell me," she said. "I want to read about it by myself." "I can't believe it," she squealed. "A book about me?" Then she covered her mouth to catch a giggle. Seeing little Sarah happy made me happy too. I laughed out loud. I put some hard words in so you can look them up. You sound like my teacher. Sarah pressed the book to her heart, closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, James Otis. I will keep this book forever and ever." Walking home, Mama held my hand. "The temples look very grateful," she said. "I think we reached their hearts," I said. Mama nodded. "I'm proud of you, James Otis." "How come?" I asked. "'Cause you're you." In winter, night comes early. The sky was darkening and it had started to snow. I stuck my tongue out to catch the snowflakes as Mama spun joyfully round and round. Suddenly, Mama stopped. "Look, there's something on our porch," she said. I rushed ahead and there it was. A love box had been delivered to us. And our hearts rejoiced. Our hearts rejoiced.
Thank you, Reverend Pat, for that story. It is now the time in our service where we have an opportunity to share our personal joys and sorrows with one another. I will place a stone in this bowl of water for Jane Futcher and family on the death of beloved Hillary. I'll place another stone in the bowl for the family of Pat Hill, who mourn and celebrate their beloved Pat. And I'll place a final stone in the bowl for all the joys and sorrows that lie buried in the silent sanctuaries of our heart. We'll take a moment of silence. So we're going to sing our first hymn of the morning, "What Gift Can We Bring?" It is in the gray hymnal, number 404. And I welcome you to stand if you're able. And I think our summer choir is going to help guide us along in this selection.
Praise
Our reading this morning is from Alberto Rios, When Giving is All We Have. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too. But we read this book anyway, over and again. Giving is, first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue, and I gave you yellow. Together we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together we made something greater from the difference. And I'd now like to welcome Reverend Pat to share her reflections this morning.
Hello. Hello, Ottawa First. What a pleasure to be with you, even in this limited video format. I hope to come and visit the congregation someday. I was thinking about generosity, and I've been thinking about this for a while as we come out of the COVID, and thinking about what it means to be generous, and wondering if my own generosity chops have been affected by this time out, this isolation. I want to begin by expressing gratitude for the generosity of the people who put together this service, and also of my husband, who has worked very tirelessly to help me do this recording. Story. I think you probably know the story of the Good Samaritan. It's a story about a Jewish person and the Samaritan who would not ordinarily have been friendly towards each other. However, out of all those who could have helped this person who fell by the roadside, only the Samaritan did. The man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho and was attacked by robbers on the way. He was badly beaten and left for dead. The first person to pass the injured man was a priest who crossed the road and continued walking. The second person to pass the injured man was a Levite, a priest assistant. He also crossed the road and continued walking without helping the man. The third person to come by was a Samaritan, a person from Samaria. The Samaritans were not liked generally by the Jews. When the Samaritan saw the man, he took pity on him. He bandaged him and cleaned his wounds. He then put him on the back of his donkey and took him to an innkeeper. He paid the innkeeper to look after him and checked back with the innkeeper on the way back to make sure that all expenses had been covered. The Greek translation tells us he had a gut-wrenching experience. Something was moved in him, changed in him. We know little about the Samaritan except that he was generous to a stranger in need and went beyond his own comfort to give of his purse and his time at risk to himself. What moved him to be so generous and kind? Was he generous by nature? The story doesn't tell us, but the message is clear. Love your neighbor as yourself. And who is our neighbor? The story tells us that our neighbor is the one who needs us in the moment, if only we will heed the call. And yes, often there is risk involved. What is generosity? Some church leaders are apt to talk about giving and generosity at pledge time, but that's not this talk. I'm talking about the everyday generosity of spirit that requires us to go beyond our comfort zone in order to give of ourselves when we'd rather not. I'm talking about generosity of spirit, giving of our time, our patience, our talents, as well as sharing material goods. When it's hard or requires thought or effort, that kind of giving. Giving that allows for reciprocity from the receiver so that there's an exchange. Giving as a gift we give to one another, and by extension to ourselves. Generosity is a spiritual attribute that cannot be acquired apart from practice, the practice of giving. We cannot become generous and often jealously guard everything out of fear of future need. I might need it someday. The opposite of generosity is greediness and selfishness. These are not qualities that lead to life, and so by our giving, we cultivate a different nature inside ourselves, a better self. In Buddhism, generosity is one of the 10 perfections and is the antidote to the self-chosen poison called greed. Generosity is also known as dana in the Eastern religious scriptures. Sometimes it's easy. I find it easy to help out a friend, give something to my child, smiling at a beautiful child in a stroller while the parent beams on, hosting a party for a dear friend, giving away something of which there is abundance. It feels good, and the immediate reward is a smile or heartfelt thanks, sometimes admiration or public recognition. But there are times when it's really hard to give. I find it particularly hard when I'm tired or worn out or just feel like I've got nothing left. It's going to the hospital to see someone who is in ICU or palliative care at midnight, or having nothing to offer but yourself, your love, your presence. It may mean giving something you really would like to keep. It may be that generous donation you made to help fund a refugee family, which meant giving up season's tickets or a special vacation or something that you were saving for. What keeps us from being generous? When we're sick, tired, annoyed, or just feel like it's someone else's turn, it's easier to say, no, not today, not me, don't ask. Generosity, it seems, does not come naturally to us. We must practice it. Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield writes, quote, "Our fear creates a contracted and false sense of self. This false or small self grasps our limited body, feelings, and thoughts and tries to hold on and protect them. We are afraid to open, to change, to live fully. A contracted identification with this body of fear becomes our habit. It becomes second nature to stock up or save for a rainy day." End of quote. From this fear, greed, hatred, and delusion arise. Yet underneath this fear, we find an openness and wholeness that can be called our true nature, our original nature, our Buddha nature. If living in this body of fear is a habit, then we must practice generosity instead until it too becomes a habit. In this world, it would seem that generosity has really gone out of style. When we feel threatened or afraid, we hold back for fear of being taken advantage of, or left wanting, fooled. Ken Blanchard, in the book Generosity, The Generosity Factor, Discover the Joy of Giving Your Time, Talent, and Treasure, talks about the great contradiction. Jesus taught, reportedly more than 1,000 years ago, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." St. Francis echoed that message. But in our time, many in our society seem to be ruled by a contradictory principle. Receiving is all that matters. Other often heard comments are, "Get all you can out of life. Only go around once. Always look out for yourself. You deserve it. I made mine. If you want yours, go out and earn it. Only the strong survive. Why bother?" Or, "What's in it for me?" In these times when there is so much fear of loss, illness, or confinement, one might ask, how can I possibly make a difference through small acts of generosity? It's easy to create a rationale for not giving. We cannot change the world order, but we can give in everyday life in the small interpersonal ways that our principles call us to do in this interdependent web. The good news is that any act of generosity has a ripple effect. We can all be kind. Giving is a miracle that can transform the heaviest of heart and reverberates in ways that we cannot predict. There is evidence that people who are generous experience higher rates of endorphins and better health. Each of us needs to feel the personal worth and power of having something to give. The great spiritual teachers have wisdom to offer about giving. Let me offer up some quotes, some of my favorites. For it is in giving that we receive. Can you guess? Francis of Assisi. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. Gibran the prophet. Sharon Salzberg writes in the book Loving Kindness, the Buddha said that no spiritual life is possible, true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance and the feeling that we have enough to share. In the book Simple Truths, Kent Nurburn, a theologian, states, giving is a miracle that can transform the heaviest of our hearts. Giving is not an economic exchange. It is a generative act. It does not subtract from what we have. It multiplies the effect we can have in the world. Sorry. Matthew Fox, in Sins of the Spirit, Blessings of the Flesh, writes, generosity is about giving without being guaranteed return. It is about the giveaway. I believe that the true moral path of the 21st century, he says, will be very different from the path of the modern era because it will be marked by generosity. Anglican Archbishop and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Desmond Tutu wrote in the book God Has a Dream, in the African understanding of Ubuntu, our humility and generosity also come from realizing that we would not be alive. We could not be alive, nor could we accomplish anything without the support, love, and generosity of all the people who have helped us to become the people we are today. Jack Kornfield, quoted in The Faces of Buddhism in America, says, to cultivate generosity directly is another fundamental part of living a spiritual life. Like the training precepts and like our inner meditations, generosity can actually be practiced. With practice, its spirit forms our actions and our hearts will grow stronger and lighter. It can lead to new levels of letting go and to greater happiness. And finally, from Parker Palmer, the soul is generous. It takes in the needs of the world. End of quote and end of quotes. Acts of generosity, big or small, always generate miracles of life. Generosity begets generosity and creates a circular flow of compassion and gratitude. Sharing is the true language of interdependence, and life invites us to be generous both in giving and in receiving. When we live out of a spirit of sharing, we come to know the full meaning of loving kindness. Sharing is not to be thought of simply in material terms, for there is also the generosity of judgment or withholding judgment, of patience, of forgiveness, of gentle presence. Generosity is one of those dynamics of reciprocity. We usually think that generosity benefits the people and things we give to, and so it does. But I know that I'm a much happier, more content person when I can live with an open heart and open hands. Practicing generosity requires trust that the more seeds we send out, the greater the chance for things that we care about to flourish. Generosity is more than giving. It is participating in the whole of creation, creating community, creating family, creating love, creating friendships. So, developing a practice. Some people think of generosity as an event. They get behind some cause or participate in an annual fund drive. When the splash is over, it's back to business as usual. But as Ken Blanchard says, generosity is an attitude. It has to be cultivated daily. So, how do we practice generosity? Here's a simple suggestion, and I hope you'll take me up on it. Give away something every day. It could be a toonie to a busker on the street, or a thank you to someone who has been kind. It could be a check to a favorite charity. Doesn't have to be a big amount. It could be a sincere sorry to someone that has been overlooked or taken for granted. Make it a spiritual practice for a month, or 28 days seems to be the formula. Feel what it's like to give something away, something you were not asked or required to give. Develop the practice a bit at a time, from small acts to bigger ones. It is a practice that builds spiritual muscle. Along the way, ask, what stops me? What stopped me just now from sharing? What are my blind spots? What does it feel like to give? What does it feel like not to give, to be withholding? May we be truly generous. In loving our neighbors as ourselves, may we find the joy of giving and the gift of giving. May our gifts be shared. Let our generosity be contagious. The first question which the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? The question the Samaritan asked, the reversed question, was, if I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reverend Pat, for those reflections and the challenge to the congregation. It is now the time in our service where we accept the offering. For those of you in Worship Hall, feel free to use the collection baskets as they pass by you. For those joining us online, you may go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you may keep up with your pledge or make a donation during these very unusual times. We give these gifts freely, we receive these gifts gratefully, we dedicate these gifts to the work of the congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another. I'd now like to call upon the summer choir that has prepared an anthem for us this morning, which will be followed by a hymn that I invite everybody to join in the teal hymnal number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Thank you. Hello. Is it on? Yeah, excellent. So before we started today, I did want to issue an invitation to everybody. We're doing the summer choir at 9 on Sundays in August. If you're already on the choir list, I will send the information out to you. But if you're not in choir, this is a great chance to come out and try it out, see what it's like. So we just prepare the anthem on Sunday mornings, and then we will sing it for you in the service, as we're about to do right now. The song we're going to sing today is One Foot Lead with Love by Melanie Damore. This is a wonderful piece. Melanie says of it, I was inspired by the great movements that were started out of love for people and not out of hatred of others. So about leading with love and kindness and generosity. It's a very optimistic anthem. I also would like to invite you to join in if you feel so inspired, with your masks on, of course. You'll see, there's going to be words up there. When the words are in bold, you can feel free to sing along. There's sort of a call and response thing. I think you'll find it's fairly intuitive. So, oh, that is not the right word. That's the hymn. There are anthem words, but if they don't end up there, just repeat what you hear the choir singing, and you should be fine. We'll find out That's the title. That's good. Oh, okay. Okay, there's no words. That's all right. We'll figure it out. And what you can do if the words are not coming is you can always feel free to snap, clap, or move otherwise. So thank you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
The path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
And I'm scared too.
And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right next to you.
Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't you give up.
Don't you give up.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love. Thank you, choir.
So please join us in singing hymn number 1031 from the Teal Hymnal. You're welcome to stand, and the summer choir will help lead us.
I will mention in the order of service, I think it says 10:13, but it's actually 10:31. So if you're looking at 10:13, you may be surprised.
some closing words as we extinguish the chalice. The Buddha said, "When you see someone practicing the way of giving, aid him joyously, and you will obtain vast and great blessings." A Shramana asked, "Is there an end to those blessings?" The Buddha said, "Consider the flame of a single lamp. Though 100,000 people come and light their own lamps from it, so that they can cook their food and ward off the darkness, the first lamp remains the same as before. Blessings are like this too." Tripitaka Sutra number 10. Please join us in our sung benediction, Spirit of Life. Now, as we reach the closing of our service, I encourage you to reach out your hands to those around you for our benediction. I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Have a wonderful week, everyone. It's a little chaotic together.
Please sign the calendar.